My name is Dave. I am a 55-year-old industrial electrician. Most of the time, my job is to quickly diagnose and fix a problem with a production machine, and from time to time replace an electrical motor. I have been in this job for close to 30 years now. I did not attend college, but I did take some technical school classes. 99% of my education came from being taught on the job by a man that even today has forgotten more about doing this work than I will ever learn. I am going to tell the story of my divorce and the aftermath of it. If Darla and I had not gotten divorced this year, it would mark our 30th anniversary. We now have 4 grown children, 3 sons and a daughter. About 18 years ago, Darla returned to school. She was working about 20 hours a week. I was pulling most of the load still. We got past it. I was very proud watching Darla graduate from law school within 5 years. Darla was working in a large law firm and was getting a lot of court training for the first few years. Everything was okay. We took out some loans and Darla and I had almost paid them off using some of her bonuses. Over time, I started to take note that Darla was getting home later, and later I started asking her what was going on. Our baby daughter was about 16. At the time this started happening. My 2 oldest sons were gone. One was in college in Mississippi and the other son was in the Marines. Many evenings, it was just my daughter and I eating dinner because my son was working in the evenings. I started to also notice Darla was not interested in the bedroom and really started getting distant. My daughter noticed and called all her brothers about how their mother was never at home. My son, who was in the Marines, got some leave and came home. He was home almost 2 days before his mother even took notice. That really hurt him. It also pissed him off and he started following his mother. He started to get photos of his mom going into hotels and getting in another man's car many times. I remember standing at a work table working on a motor controller and just started crying. I was ashamed of what my kids were going through. My son and I got into a heated argument about his mother. I knew my marriage was over. My son in Mississippi came home the next day. All 4 of my kids were waiting for their mother to come home. When she did, they jumped on her. My son showed her the photos and told the story of following her. Darla started crying and left the house with the kids following her, calling her all sorts of names. I asked my son to go back to school. My son's leave was up and he returned to North Carolina. Darla never attempted to call me or the kids. All I know is I came home and my daughter told me that slut had packed up and left. I walked to my daughter, I held her head in my hands. And after stroking her hair, I asked her not to use that word to describe Darla. She promised me that she would not. I drove to the capital city and found a divorce attorney and told him everything, as well as showed him the photos my son took. He wanted my okay to contact all 4 of my kids. I said my daughter is with me but shopping nearby. He spoke to all 4 of them and all 4 said they would testify about their mother. The attorney did say he wanted to find out who Darla's AP was. This was because in a hearing, he wants to have him subpoenaed to court. I asked why. And he said, Darla is an attorney and her firm will circle the wagons around her. He wants the AP on record. He asked me to go spend several hours with my daughter and come back in 3 hours. By then, he said he could have the divorce paperwork ready to go over. He was not going to file it though until he knew more about Darla's AP. When my daughter and I returned home, we noticed Darla's car in the driveway. My daughter said, "Daddy, let's go somewhere else until she leaves." My daughter got so upset. I knew I had to drive on. I dropped her off at a friend's house and returned home. Darla was still there and was sitting in the living room when I opened the door. Darla wanted to know what she could do to repair her family. She was crying by this time. I said, "Darla, right now, all 4 of your babies hate the ground. You walk on. How could you be so stupid to do this? If you were unhappy in our marriage, leave, get a divorce?" She had no answer. And again, begged me to let her move back. I simply told her, if you move back, the kids will leave. That was the last contact I had with Darla for almost a month. By that time, my attorney had identified Darla's AP as one of the married partners at the firm and her boss. My attorney did file the divorce papers. Then the day we got a hearing date, he also subpoenaed her AP at home in front of his wife. I was told the process server told the attorney. His wife was standing behind him as he served him. This attorney tried several times to get that subpoena squashed. But the judge said, no. He even tried to get it squashed by saying he was going to be Darla's attorney. The judge said, okay, but the information I have that backs up the subpoena tells me I need to hear your testimony. The closer the date came to the hearing, the more panic both of them became. One weekend I received a phone call from the AP's wife. She wanted to see the photos as well as the photos of her husband going into the hotels. She came to my home, had some tea my daughter had made, and I gave her copies of everything. The day of the hearing came and all 4 of my kids walked into the courthouse along with my attorney and I. Just before the hearing started, I saw AP's wife enter and sit in the back. I wish I could say the judge had a field day with Darla. He did not, because just as soon as the judge called the hearing to order, Darla's attorney said she was not contesting the divorce, did not want the house, did not want my retirement, did not want custody of my daughter, and was not asking for any support. My attorney stood up and said I wanted $250 a month until my daughter was 18. The judge looked at Darla and she nodded. The judge granted the terms and we all walked out and had lunch. Even AP's wife was sitting close by. The AP's wife is very close to my age and her daughters are already grown and married. Her divorce was coming about a month later. My daughter and I attended the hearing. It was a crap show. Her attorney had subpoenaed Darla. The judge was the same judge that handled our divorce because the AP's wife was a stay-at-home mom. She got the house, she got half of his retirement and close to $1,500 a month for support. I can't remember for how long, but it was a long time in the years since the AP's wife and I have spent some time together. All of our kids are friends with each other. She and I both are never going to remarry ever again. Her husband, by a vote of the partners, was forced out. He did go west and is a full partner in another law firm. He left bitter and his now ex told me she would rule the day she divorced him. He would get remarried and find a woman better and younger than she was. Well, according to his daughter, he did just that. Then about 3 years later, his young wife left him. AP's wife is happy and plays with her grandkids. I am playing with mine. My sons to this day will not speak to Gala. She was not allowed around when the grandbabies were born and was told she would be arrested if she showed up to their weddings. My daughter checks up on her from time to time, but they are not as close as a mother and daughter should be. It makes me feel bad that this happened. But my kids are grown and they make their own decisions. After all her divorce, Darla moved to Florida and is today a full partner in a law firm in the Tampa area. She is doing well financially. And last I heard was living in a home worth a lot of money. A few years ago, Darla came back here to be with my daughter while she was recovering from childbirth. I was sitting in a local restaurant when Darla entered and asked me if she could sit. I waved her to a seat and she ordered some coffee, asked me about our sons, and we made small talk for maybe 20 minutes when she took my hand and said, "Dave, I screwed up really bad. I know at the time I started my affair, I was making almost twice what you were making. I think I just thought I fell out of love with you, Dave. That was a bad mistake. I know I told Darla I was the same man she married and it was her that changed. I was then and still proud. She got her law degree. Darla started to weep a bit. She told me that her AP said I was a loser that was holding her back. Then she dropped $5 on the table and got up. As she walked away, she told me, "Dave, you're not a loser." Here I am. As I watched Darla walk away, I started thinking about how easy it is to listen to people that are toxic. They will cause you nothing but misery in the end.